Wolverton is not the kind of place that you can boast about living in to other people in Milton Keynes. When I say I live there, I see a mixture of kind of sympathy and disdain enter their faces. Even those of us who love it greatly would agree it's not a pretty place. In fact, you could call it the ugly duckling of Milton Keynes, but that would be a bit insulting to ducklings. Contrast it with the jewel in the crown, Stony Stratford, just 2 miles down the road. But I've lived there for the last 41 years, and really I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, because I believe that Wolverton's got something that money just can't buy, and that's a great sense of community. And what I want to talk today about is what are the factors that I think contribute to making it such a great community, and whether there are any lessons that developers developing new places in Milton Keynes and elsewhere can learn from it. Now, I was very reluctant to give this talk, actually, because I felt that I make Wolverton so attractive to you that you'd all want to move there. And economic forces being what they are, house prices would rise, and before you could say Notting Hill, it would be gentrified, monocultural, and just the kind would lose many of the factors that I think make it such a fabulous place. You know, it doesn't help that it's at the cutting edge of modern design. Sustainable communities are the buzzwords for urban designers and planners today. Look no further than Wolverton. It's been like that for more than 150 years. As a local resident said, it's a geometric pattern of raw red brick made up of long straight streets of terraced houses crisscrossing each other. And it's built to such a density that we have just about all we need to sustain us within walking distance. The infant, the junior, the secondary schools, they're all within walking distance. We can walk to the shops. We've got churches, a mosque. We've got meeting places, pubs, working men's clubs, arts facilities, sports facilities, all within walking distance. We've got a bus terminus. We've got a railway station. The perfect sustainable community. Never mind redways. We've got a network of back alleys that separate people from cars and also allow children to play safely outside of their houses. Now, the density and that facilities provide infinite numbers of ways that we can make connections as neighbours with one another. And that ability to make connections is absolutely crucial to the creation of community. The houses are terraced. The streets are narrow, built in the days before the car was king. So when you come out of your house, you can't help but bump into people. As you take your kids to school down the back alleys, naturally you pass the time of day with people. And onto that dense layout and range of facilities, you've also got a programme of annual community events that are free. People can join in a kind of a no strings attached way. You don't have to belong to anything. You don't have to be a member, pay subscriptions, swear allegiance or anything like that. You can get as actively involved as you like, or you can stand on the edge and watch, or you don't even have to get involved at all. Coming back to the theme really of what Phil was saying today, I wrote this before I saw Phil say this, but you know, I'm a great believer in what John Donne said, that no man is an island entire of itself. And we've seen that writ large, haven't we, during the Olympics and the Paralympics, with the thousands of people that have come into their towns and villages to watch a flame go by for like 20 seconds. I was in Winslow and saw this event. It was amazing. We were there 3 hours beforehand and whatever. It's fantastic. And all those people that came out on the streets to watch the marathon and the cycle races, when they could have had a much better view if they stayed at home and watched it alone in front on their tellies. What brought them out? Well, it is that wish to connect with others, that wish to be something big, as part of something bigger than yourself. And in our very modest way, I think that Wolverton has got all of those kind of opportunities for connection going for it. Now, I'm romantic, yes, but I'm not unrealistic. In the paradise that is Wolverton, I realise that there are many people who don't want to get to know their neighbours, many people who don't want to join in. But the point is, if they do, the facilities and the structure is there. The core of Wolverton today is the terraced housing that was built and overseen by two railway companies from the mid of the 19th century to the very early days of the 20th century. If we scroll back 100 years to 1912, Wolverton was in its heyday. 5,000 people worked in the railway works. People didn't only live together, but they worked together. They played together, as we've seen from all the facilities, played together, prayed together, too. It was a highly stratified society. Your place in it was determined by your job in the railway works. To the outsider, those red brick terraces might have all looked the same, but the locals knew different. Some streets were seen as very much better than others. It was a place of petty snobberies and keeping up appearances. Dear Hyacinth's bouquet would have been in her element there. But even with its social divisions, the Wolverton of 1912 would have been seen by many people as a real community. If we go 100 years on, Wolverton is not like that anymore. 300 people now only work in the railway works, and most of them don't live locally. There are a few original families left, but we can learn from the history of those families. Most of the old institutions have gone, but they're not forgotten. New things have developed. We've got a brass band, but we've got a samba band now as well. We had carnivals. We've now got a lantern festival. The flower and garden show that was such a big feature has been revived by people. But the really interesting thing is that the community is much more diverse, socially, economically, educationally, and ethnically. It's still a real community, and I think in many ways, because it's a much more egalitarian place, in many ways it's a better community than it was before. In preparing this talk, I spoke to lots of people in Wolverton about, what do you think, is Wolverton a real community, and what do you think makes it a community? And one of the things that really struck me was when someone said, do you know what makes it really different to other places, is that the housing is democratic. Within the Wolverton conservation area, the core of the core railway town, there isn't a great range of house prices, house sizes, and house types. If we look along the street here, where does the OU lecturer live? Where does the Pakistani taxi driver live? The Tesco operative, checkout operative, or the retired railway worker? You can't tell. There's nothing that says this house is the big house where the important person lives. And the people who move to Wolverton are quite happy about that. They're quite happy. They celebrate the difference, the fact of the differences between people and the fact that they're living cheek by jowl. They're part of a diverse community and they're happy to be that. One of the consequences of this democracy is that there's an absence of keeping up with the Joneses. Mr. and Mrs. Jones don't live in Wolverton. Contrast that with other areas where there seems to be that the thing that's being sold to people is the fact that your house is different, bigger, whatever, got more facilities and other things. The other thing is that the houses in Wolverton are large, they're well built, and because of where it is and because of what it looks like, they're cheap, or they're much cheaper than they are in relation to other places in Milton Keynes. It means that a lot of people can afford to live there, hence the diversity that you get. The houses, the houses are affordable to many, but one of the things that we have attracted as a group is we've, if you like, got quite a number of people I would describe as creative and arty. And it's because the houses are cheap, they don't have much money. I think there's the truth of it. But it does mean that we have more than our fair share of creative activities like the Lantern Festival, like the Scarecrow Festival, that can involve people both in making and actively taking part. We've also got more than our fair share of people who are looking at new ways of living in this modern world, looking for alternative ways of living. The Milton Keynes Christian Foundation's innovative social enterprise are based in Wolverton, and we've got an urban farm. And we're one of the, I think it's 2 or 3 places in the country that's just about to start a community electric car sharing scheme. Eccentrics are welcome in Wolverton. Now, if this is all sounding a bit too appealing, I don't want you rushing down to avenues, the estate agents tomorrow. No, let's be honest, for those of you who know it, your first, your second, and your abiding impression of Wolverton is, let's not put too fine a point on it, it's shabby. Is it really the kind of place that you'd like to live and bring up your family? Is it any wonder that Barratt homes developing on the edge of Wolverton, on the edge of, but still patently in Wolverton, is marketing its development as Stratford Park. But the point is that shabbiness, in terms of making community, is our ace in the hole. It's like being the parent of an ugly child. You want to do your, never mind what other people think, you want to do your best for it. You want to, if you like, compensate for its ugliness. And let's face it, there are so many opportunities in Wolverton to improve it. At its most dramatic, it's places like the community orchard and the secret garden, where local residents have acquired derelict land and have given it a new lease of life and managed these places. And there's still a lot to do. We're uniting together to get rid of an obstacle that is much hated. For those people who know about this, the agora, which divides the town in two. But the point is that this kind of thing brings people together on a common mission. It gives another opportunity to meet your neighbours, another opportunity to come together to make a difference. And that's the thing that, I say I've lived there for 41 years now. That's the thing that I've really loved about living in Wolverton, because it's given me and many others a chance to make a mark on our community. We've been an active part in helping to shape its future. We've been able to enact real change and improvement. And through that process, we formed friendships. And we've developed a commitment to and a love to Wolverton that gives me, standing in front of you today, a great pride to say, yes, I live there. Isn't there a lesson for those who are developing new communities in all of this? When I was a student, nearly 50 years ago, at the then very new University of Sussex, in the centre of the Basil Spence Design Campus were these two concrete towers. They were apparently the symbols of incompleteness built by the architect. And what is interesting is that this earlier photo shows that they were built before a lot of the rest of the campus was. Do you know, I think that's such a powerful message, particularly from an architect, that it isn't all sewn up. That things are open to change, things can develop, and by implication, you can be part of that, of helping to shape what that future is. Now, unfortunately, the aim of a developer is to present a complete, a perfect environment to people. All that's left for residents normally to do when they move into a new estate is to furnish their house and tend their garden. Where's the opportunity to connect with your neighbours? Where's the opportunity to make you feel that you have a real sense of ownership of the place where you live? When something is missing, as a new resident, you will say, excuse me, Mr. Developer, you haven't provided that play area, meeting place, whatever else it is. But by asking that question, you are actually in a kind of emasculated, powerless position where you are the recipient. In Wolverton, when something's missing, we say, what can we do about it? Could the developer dare to leave a new development incomplete and imperfect? I don't really think so, because the developer is, as the Barratt home shows you, is selling a dream. And the resident, if you like, is buying into that dream. Now, when you move into more settled areas like Wolverton, it's pretty obvious from one look around for you that you're not buying into any dream. But the point is that when you move into a place like Wolverton, you can be a part of transforming that place, getting together with others to transform that place from an ugly duckling into a beautiful duck, of course. What's so good about swans anyway? Thank you.
What Roger says rings very true to me too, because I ran Relate in Milton Keynes for 10 years, and I was in Wolverton, and a lot of people said to me, why are you in Wolverton all the time? And I used to defend its sort of community spirit hugely. Do you feel, 10 years on now, that Wolverton is now being seen by Milton Keynes as a very positive energy? Because in the early days it wasn't shiny and therefore was dismissed quite often.
Well, I do. I think what for me is really great is that there are people who are in their 30s and 40s who've moved in or grown up in the area who feel that same commitment and want to do something about it. And it was interesting, I think it was John Best who's here, said to me when we were up at some event up at the during the Fringe Festival, God, if we took the Wolverton people out of this thing, there wouldn't hardly be anyone else left. So that was encouraging, yeah.
And certainly the town council that you have developed there is one of the most energetic and lively. And I think about the issue we've talked about this morning about being heard. I think now that people are starting to hear the Wolverton voices, whereas in the early days of the sort of everything new and shiny, they didn't really realise that sort of what community development is about people's voices,
yes.
and Wolverton is very strong. So.
But we welcome new people.
Yes, incomers.
But those who want to do something.
Thank you very much,
okay.
Roger.